Um,
I found myself struggling the whole way through, but struggling in different ways the whole way
How so?
through.
Yeah, tell us more.
So like with the blue gun, your struggle is with managing the blocks, and you have that
Hmm.
limited number. With the green gun that you have now, you can kind of draw a line of blocks,
Hmm.
and so there are these little like divots that you have to trace them through these holes, but you still have
Yeah.
a limited number. Um,
Mhm.
and I forget if it's with this one or the next one that you can start generating your own.
I think you
Yeah,
can.
this one doesn't generate, I don't think, does it?
Well,
Well,
I
I think you can generate with this
I
one.
believe
you
yeah, I believe
you
it when you get enough blocks you can generate anyway because
Yeah,
when you build like a square, the square fills in, and you haven't learned that yet, but the
no,
game teaches you that later on, and I think that mechanic works no matter what.
right.
mm.
I mean,
and
that's a definite rule set.
then the next the yellow gun you can start moving blocks around that have already been placed, and so it's just there are different challenges with each one, but it's not like suddenly the game gets easier once you find the next gun because the challenges are designed for that gun.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's really the beauty of this game. Like as you progress, it gets harder, but it gets harder because you're just forced to rethink everything you've learned already. You're approaching this sort of the same environments and the same scenarios in new ways. And yeah, you're getting to new rooms too, but you're just applying a different set of tools to figuring out how to move.
Hmm.
Like right now
Yeah,
you're playing with these bits using the green gun because that's what you've learned from the blue gun, but there are layers that you haven't figured out yet. What you don't realize right now is you can't progress at this point. You've
Right.
destroyed too many blocks.
Yeah.
um and yeah, I mean for me that was a slow process figuring that out.
oh yeah. I mean, it's definitely it's a game where you have to sort of fail in order to progress.
Which is
Yes.
definitely interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I don't think a lot of games allow for
Or
failure.
encourage it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or encourage failure. Like in this game, I think there was one of the signs. I think failure doesn't mean you don't progress.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, there is.
and like there's like a cliff or a jump off or some point like that, and like at the very bottom, it's like okay, as long as you learn something from what you did, you're always moving forward, even though
Hmm.
you might not be moving forward physically, at least you're moving forward by learning more of the rule sets as you're going into it.
Well, it's the Dark Souls effect where
Mhm.
you die a lot, but you learn the layout better each time, and
Hmm.
you're able. Each death has value still. So this
Have
is
any of you
you don't really
who
die in
have
this
played
game.
through it,
Hmm?
Hmm?
since have any of you who have played through it, have you since have any of you dared to restart from zero?
I've thought about it. I've been interested to like start to
Thought
go
about
from
it?
the very beginning again. But the problem is like part of the game is sort of like learning and a little bit of struggling. And like I said, like almost like failing to get everything together. Um and it doesn't like I would feel like I mean, I'd probably, wait a couple of months, so maybe things have, I'd forgotten a couple of things or like how did I get around to this thing or whatever. But
Sure.
I mean, after a while, it was like, yeah, learning different rules, understanding how everything sort of like came together. It's I mean, that's part of the enjoyment of the game is that you are faced with something that you think is like, wow, this is just not going to work. This is just impossible. And then finally being like, oh, this isn't impossible. This is actually feasible, and everything I needed was right here the whole time. I was thinking this, but I should have been thinking this other thing.
Uh-huh. See, the reason I ask is because I'm interested to know if the lessons you pick up from beginning to end if you
Mhm.
started again, does what you learn at the end make your approach to the first puzzles more difficult, or does it make it more easy? Because I wonder if you then assume things have always been in effect, but they haven't been actually in effect until the moment that you meet them.
Um, I don't know. I haven't started it. I would say things would be probably a little bit I would say things will be a little bit easier in some respects, like especially like once again like picking up on colors,
Hmm.
understanding like the colors of the cubes actually correspond to sort of the colors of the cube wands or cube guns to go
Sure.
along with it. And so I won't be like staring at a wall being like, why doesn't this work? What's wrong with
Well,
these
yeah,
cubes?
like in the room that you're in right now, one
Uh-huh.
of the doors on the other side of it is a yellow wall. And at this point in the game, you wouldn't know that there's a yellow gun coming up next.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't know that that's like you don't get that cue quite yet.
Uh-huh.
But then once you get the yellow gun, you're like, oh wait, there was yellow there.
Yeah. So yeah, right behind that door right there.
Yeah.
You see yeah, there's a lot of yellow, and if you were to open up that door, which you probably could with what you have right now, you wouldn't be able to get through that door.
Hmm.
And like I was the same thing. Like in this room, it doesn't teach you that you can actually grow cubes. And so I go through and I continue working through it. But as soon
Yeah.
as I figure out that it's like, oh, I can grow cubes, I come back to this room and all of a sudden these other two doors like open up for me.
Right. So there is a learning process, and it could be applicable later on. That's or earlier on, sorry. So
Um,
that's good
I
to know.
I think to a limited extent. I think being able to grow, having the knowledge of being able to grow cubes could help early on. I'm
Hmm.
just trying to remember if there are any situations where
I
You
don't
get
you
think
like
they
a whole
give
have,
you enough
bunch of
blocks to
cubes.
ever really do that though, early on.
yeah, that's the thing. Is there a point early enough where you have enough where the game isn't intentionally feeding you an abundance of cubes, but you have enough, which I think the minimum is 8. Because yeah, one,
Right.
two, three, yeah, 8 to
Right.
start growing more cubes.
Right. It's I think the beginning of it is designed well enough, and the green one that you have right now, the ability
Hmm.
to actually pick up a lot of cubes at once,
Hmm.
and to be able to do that, is very you need that in order to progress through a lot of like the different areas.
Hmm.
Uh, but like I said, I might have mentioned that one of my friends actually finished the game with only the third gun, and he never found the fourth one. Which I'm like, how do you do that? I,
Yeah.
I I try to imagine. It's like, well, okay, you got this puzzle, and you could do this with this puzzle, and you could like grow this together. Now, this is actually like going back to the beginning of this. Like, it took me a couple of times, but as you're exiting sort of this green area and you get to the weird sort of like green mosaic or wall that you get there, that actually teaches you a lot about the rules behind uh, blocks disappearing,
Yeah.
like which blocks will disappear, and if you took away this block, what will cause like other blocks to go away because of it. So once again, like oop, you're almost there.
You have to wait
Oop,
there, yeah.
there you go.
You have to wait for the door to open.
Yeah.
And you're back.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to avoid playing it too much because it's sort of easier for us to talk about it if we're not sort of focused on the amount of questionable progress I'm making.
Of course. What else? So, going into the game itself, what do you think are some of like the shortcomings, or um, what are the things that you might have wished was a little bit different about the game?
I don't know. I mean, like I said, I'm not totally used to playing a lot of puzzlers, but feel like I feel like there could just be more explanation. I think that a lot of people will play this and maybe never progress past a certain point. Maybe that's just me.
But when I mean, going into it, like, I don't know. I
Oh,
mean, would that be a bad thing?
I
It's
don't know.
it's a tough line to toe, I think, in a game like this, because I mean, so much, as we've all said so far, so much of the joy of this game is in the discovery and in the feeling of triumph when you fail a dozen times at something and then something clicks and you figure it out.
Mm,
Right.
So you don't. There's a risk. Like, you don't want to explain too much, but I can understand that. Like I said before, I had problems with the green gun specifically, and the way I didn't realize, it took me a while to realize that blocks can disappear and effectively be destroyed.
hmm
I thought I was just collecting them, and they were just disappearing in a group because I was collecting them in a group. And it just took a while for that to click. Whether that's a failing on my side or a failing of the game is really arguable.
hmm
The only real problem I had with this game, and it's not really an issue for you with only the two guns, but once you get the third and the fourth gun, and
hmm
this is much more of an interface situation. The just juggling, because you end up having to use not just the two mouse buttons, but a third mouse button, the scroll wheel for most people, and it requires holding down different buttons and combinations of buttons, and it just gets a little crowded to use all three of your fingers on the mouse like that.
Right. So, I mean, yeah, I guess that's worth pointing out here that the guns don't. So you're saying that the guns after this are separate guns, whereas I can't switch between this one and the first one anymore.
No, no, no. It's a complete upgrade. So like you
Yeah.
can never go back to the blue gun. And once you get the yellow gun, you can never go back to the green gun. But they all have the
But
same.
they build on each other, so you're not
Yeah.
Right.
like losing any abilities.
Okay.
No, you can still collect and you can still put down blocks like you could with the blue gun, but just now you can
hmm
actually sort of paint with blocks.
Right.
So it makes it a little bit easier to farm your blocks as it were, as you're doing right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. My main concern was with the map interface, and
hmm
I mean I realize that it's kind of purposefully confusing, but it just got to the point where I don't know where I'm going, and I have lost track of where I can go.
Right.
Right.
So
Well, it's tough because it is a game where there is no necessary forward
yeah,
to the game.
it's very hard to feel like you're making progress sometimes because you'll spend a lot of time on a puzzle and finally get through, and then it's a dead end puzzle,
Right.
Yes.
and
Good
it's
point.
hard to know what is actually leading to the end goal, and which I mean in the context of that GDC talk that you were referring to, like
Hmm.
that's very powerful in that like there when you're making a game there are dead ends in development and like all these things, so like that it's a very powerful message. It's just very hard to get through still
Right.
as a player.
It's a hard lesson to learn at times and not necessarily a fun lesson to learn. But you're
Yeah.
getting really good at this whole growing blocks bit.
Yeah, this is fun to watch.
The funnest part is actually trying to remember what makes a square. I'm not even sure if you have to make a square, but I feel like you have to.
Right, exactly. Well, I think you
You can
got
just make
enough
any closed
blocks.
shape.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as it's a closed
Oh, really?
box, it can be a rectangle. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I think you have enough blocks now. If you want to, you could probably get through the door to behind you.
Yeah, directly behind you,
To go to behind
the
is
one
in.
opposite the yellow
No,
wall.
yeah,
Okay. Gotcha.
I mean, you probably have enough to open both.
yeah, but you won't be able to get through the yellow wall.
Yeah.
So I want to go through the wall that's like a. I'll just face one, and you can tell me if it's the right one.
Oh, yeah,
That
that's
one.
Yes.
fine.
Yep.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good point as well. That sometimes, life gives you dead ends, and sometimes you think you're making progress, and you end up someplace, and it's a room being constructed, under construction.
And like,
Yeah,
I
but I
don't
mean,
know.
I think actually Scott makes a good point with the GDC thing in that it's never there's never a point in that talk when Alexander Bruce makes out like he tried to do something that didn't work out. Like everything
Right,
in that talk is like I tried to do this and people told me not to do it and then I did it and it worked.
right,
Which I think can be a bit of a fallacy in the indie industry, and that a lot of people are so keen. Like you look at things like indie game the movie, where people are so keen to talk about these fantastic stories, and there's a little bit of a tendency to avoid talking about the amount of times that things maybe don't work out.
right. I mean, it's once again like you only see the things that actually do happen, and you can't see the things that don't happen.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's always a problem. Yep, there you go, mastering a skill.
And now you found the exit again.
Yay, exit again.
Where is it?
And it's a new exit. There we go.
Yeah, there you go. There's an exit
It's
all
halfway
over
finished.
again.
So I mean,
Oh,
that's a pretty overt message. Is that you've actually finished
Yeah.
half of the right?
Yeah. I mean, I mean, it was, it's interesting, but it was at the same time, it was like, oh my God, I only got halfway. There's still another half to go.
and it's also very subjective in whether it's halfway in terms of time put in,
Right.
because as you continue going through, there's a lot more side paths that you can discover. So like you might have spent 3 hours to get to this point. It could be
Right.
another 8 to get to the actual end and see everything. But that's technically this is the in terms of like what abilities you have, this is the halfway point.
Yeah, I mean, there are four guns and you have two of them.
And oh, that makes me think of also with the timer,
Oh
because at
yeah.
the very beginning there's that timer going on, and so I was trying to rush through, thinking like, oh, I have to make this
You
timer,
only
and
have so
then
much time.
yeah, and then the timer ran out, and it's just like, oh well, sometimes time runs out, and you have to just keep going. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
No, I love it. It was a very sort of anxious. Once again, like I think that's part of the beauty of playing it like through the first time is that you don't know what's going to happen when the timer runs out, and so you have this very anxious quality as you're playing through it, where you're like, oh, geez, what's going to happen? Because at first it was like, is this going to start me all over again from the very beginning? So that I would have to like, I would have to beat this game in one go, uh, while the timer is still going, so on and so forth. But no.
And it's funny that again there is another puzzle game that involves guns that begins with a timer, but
This is
I
true.
mean
This is true.
there are bizarre comparisons here.
But once again, I think like the timer is a very different effect. For the timer there, it was very story driven, and the timer here, it's almost like another puzzle that, I mean, even though you don't have to solve it, it's still like this is how the puzzle, what's going to happen.
Uh-huh.
And there's all sorts of like other sort of, I mean, there is sort of like a small story like going into this where you're actually like as soon as you like we've seen like a glimpse of the black cube, and you'll see
Right.
more of the black cube as you go through this. And it was just seeing that black cube, it's like, what's going on? How's this coming together? It's just like it's that sort of that puzzle of like what's going to happen after, if I find this black cube, and it's like, is it going to hurt me? Is it going to affect me somehow? Like how is this all coming together?
also, Rob, you're talking about last night. There's a purple cube
Oh
that
yeah,
you
yeah.
kind of follow through some puzzles. I don't know. I've only
Yes.
found it twice in my game, but I don't know
Yeah,
how many
you
other
uh
times
you
you encounter it and what
you
happens.
you encounter it a number of times as you're going through the game. And it's sort of funny. I don't think I finished that sort of like side story, as it were, going through the game where you actually follow the purple cube to its ending. But I found it a couple of times, and it's once again it's just this pu purple cube that you just sort of you find, you look at, and it just sort of makes its way through
And you've
the
got to
through the
you don't
track.
you don't interact with it, but you do have to push it along. You have to stay close to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like if
Yeah.
when you aim at it, it kind of moves away from you.
Yeah. I didn't.
And
I
so
don't
you
think
can
I
kind
saw
of
the
direct
end.
it that way.
I don't think I saw
Yeah.
the end of that thing either.
So I'm curious to see how that's going to turn out. So yeah, I guess that gives me another reason to jump back into the game and probably even start from the very beginning just to get all the
Yeah,
stuff that we talked about.
I would say if you finished it, I'd be interested to see if playing it through the second time, if you do it remarkably shorter, or if you
Hmm.
find that things that you learned later on in the game actually make it difficult for you to start all over again.
Of course. Uh, well, to let's wrap this up, guys. Do you have any final words about Antichamber?
I hope one day to finish Antichamber.
We all hope one day that you'll finish Antichamber.
I think we all hope. I think we all share the same hope to one day finish Antichamber. Because I mean, I've beaten the game, but there's still so much more to go.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think it's sort of remarkable about how much there is to this game and how much there is sort of that you don't think because we're all attuned to like what a puzzle game should be, and I think Anti-Chamber goes far beyond our expectations of what it should include or what it should be and how lengthy it should be and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Uh,
and kind of how bizarre it is that you could go into anything sort of like it's weird that you would go in sort of entitled that you think that like it should this is how it has to be, but that is how you feel when you're playing it. You're like,
right,
the game's
exactly
not
that.
playing like this, so this isn't the way it should be.
No, I absolutely, I absolutely love that the game is unapologetic. It is hard, but at the same time, it's only hard because you are
Ingrained.
so set in your ways and so
Yeah,
understanding of the rules that we know are true, and the game is like, well, those are not true here.
exactly. It's good. I like it. I mean, I've always had a thing with games where I think a lot of this comes down to the way that you approach difficulty in games. There are some people who will get to a problem that's hard and they go, this is stupid. The game is stupid. I can't play it. Whereas there's another attitude where you go, there's something wrong with me. There's like the
Uh,
problem with this is not, does not lie within the game, but it lies within yourself. And once you can get over whatever it
uh,
is that's holding you back, then you'll progress. And I think this game definitely appeals to that. I think there's a lot of people who will play this and lose their patience with it pretty quickly, but I
that
think
sounds
that
like, that's I think that goes with like life itself, actually.
well, true, but I mean, the whole idea is that like you could like because they keep saying, keeps reiterating on the message that the path of least resistance is a totally okay thing to do.
Yeah.
Playing through Antichamber is not the path of least resistance. so, so I think that there's an interesting little moment there.
Scott, any last words?
Um, I'm not quite sure if I like Antichamber or not, but I respect it. I think is more
I
the way to put it.
respect Antichamber.
I
Excellent.
I acknowledge what it's trying to do, and I think that it's very good at that. I just the number of times that I've gotten stuck in this game and
Mhm.
been unable to progress unless I go check some YouTube video
Right.
has been prevented me from saying whether I like it or not.
Uh, well, get a little bit ahead of it. See if you can try getting to the end. I think there's a lot of ways. There, like I said, there's actually a couple of places where you can actually have multiple ways of getting through, and multiple rooms will get you through the whole thing. You don't have to solve you don't have to solve all the puzzles in order to get to the end of the game.
Uh-huh.
But and there's some puzzles that will get you just like special rooms and stuff like that. But I
Yeah,
think
I mean, like there was
it's
some really cool snake room I found
see,
where like
yeah.
where like you're playing Snake just by walking around and the floor falls out from under you and like but yeah,
Uh,
it doesn't lead anywhere.
Adam.
Uh, oh, I didn't. I thought I already gave my
Oh,
final
you might have
words.
already given your stuff. Then that's fine. Okay, then we'll wrap up this episode of the video game club. Thank you for listening to us and helping us, follow through Antichamber. Hopefully we all get through Antichamber as we
Yes.
try. That's
Much as
that's
hopefully we all get through life.
exactly as much as we get through life. Maybe by getting through Antichamber, our lives will be a little bit better at the end. Yeah. Until next time. See ya.
Bye.
Adios. Bye.
Right?